A $30,000 versus a $2,000 hair transplant result. Both results are coming from YouTubers. The first one is Dub Family. It was a FUT hair transplant of 3,000 grafts done in the United States. And the second one comes from the Nomad Andrei, who paid $2,000, got 2,700 grafts transplanted via FUE. This video is all about sharing with you what's possible with 30K versus 2K if you get a hair transplant as a guy with Afro hair, the pros and cons of both results and which one I like the most. And before we start, shout out to our sponsor GoFiber. These are hair building fibers you can use to mask any thinning or patchy areas on your scalp to make your hair look thicker and better. So make sure you check out the link in the video description below where you can visit GoFiber, get a free sample of your choice and try them out, see if you like them. I would like to sincerely thank both of these channels for sharing their hair transplant journey online and providing helpful and valuable information to all of you guys who are interested in a hair transplant for Afro hair. I will also try to be as unbiased as possible and share with you the pros and cons as I see them from independent observer's point of view, as I do not have any affiliation to one or the other clinic. Now, with that being said, guys, I would like to start with the $30,000 hair transplant result from Dub Family, very popular YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. I'm gonna link both of the channels in the description below so you can check them out and how their hair transplant progress was. Dub Family has done FUT hair transplant. He got 3,000 grafts or hair follicles transplanted via strip method. Okay, no FUE. This was the strip method. He has done in the United States and he paid $30,000. This is how he looked like before. He was like a Norwood 5 to Norwood 6 diffused thinner before, and he focused on rebuilding the frontal hairline, frontal third, and also the temples. So let's start with the pros. He has done his surgery with a very reputable hair transplant surgeon in the United States. Now, usually the more money you pay, the more you get like that high patient focus, one patient per day type of clinic. And this was also the case with Dub Family. He got very high doctor involvement, the consultation carried out by the doctor, incisions done by the doctor, and also the most surgical aspect of the FUT being the actual removal of the strip from the back of the head, which contains the skin tissue and also follicles in the skin tissue. That's removed, and then the doctor kind of sews it back and puts stitches inside so the patient can have that pencil-like scar. That also has been done by the doctor in his case. Another advantage would be that his hairline is really nicely framed. The hair regrowth on the hairline is great, and also on the temples. The temporal hairline has been also moved further, more forward on the left and right, so that also definitely improved, and the hair regrowth there is good. His appearance overall has been improved and made him younger. And although having a linear scar spreading across the whole back and sides of his head is not going to be considered like an advantage here, but what is advantages here is that starting with FUT is very good if you are a guy with Afro hair who is already a high Norwood class like Dub Family was, and also maybe your donor is not as good. Why it's good to start with FUT is because you are able to harvest a high amount of grafts with very low transection, and we know that the Afro follicles are more prone to transection with the FUE, especially by high sessions, and also the amount of grafts that you are able to take from such donor zone will be higher overall if you start with FUT first. So that's how I would conclude the pros. Let me come to some cons or disadvantages of this more expensive hair transplant result. And yes, there are obviously some disadvantages also by the most expensive clinics. Design of the hairline was not really ideal, okay? Had he been like Norwood 2 or Norwood 3 before and got this hairline, I'm gonna say, wow, okay, that's cool. But considering he was like Norwood 5 to Norwood 6 with diffused thinning, a lot of hair loss on the mid-scalp and crown, the hairline, in my opinion, has been chosen too low, has been positioned too low. Plus, his temples have been also redesigned or kind of formed in a more aggressive way, in my opinion, and these temples only probably have consumed a couple hundred grafts or follicles, and these follicles could have been rather placed on the mid-scalp and further rebuilding of that frontal third, in my opinion, so he could have ended up with a better density there. And the second disadvantage of this high cost hair transplant result would be that the hair regrowth in my opinion, is less than optimal, considering it was FUT hair transplant, and you know that FUT is especially great for minimizing the transaction rate, which is on average always higher with Afro hair, especially if you do like FUE, like several thousand grafts harvested in one day. Then choosing FUT is actually more favorable from this standpoint, and it minimizes the transaction rate. I would actually expect much more, fullness in the frontal third after this surgery. Plus, the survival rate of the graft, especially by the mega sessions, is higher if you do FUT compared to FUE. Now, as an illustration, I would like to share with you these two examples. The first one is going to be FUT of 3,000 grafts, the same what DAP family got. And the second example will be a FUE of 2,000 grafts. Now, if you look at the 3,000 graft FUT, I actually think it's much better hair regrowth, more fullness and more density on this previously Norwood 4. I'm not seeing these 3,000 grafts regrowing like that on DAP family, considering it was also FUT and it was also 3,000 grafts. Now, if we talk about the second FUE results of 2,000 grafts, it actually doesn't look that worse compared to DAP family. It actually may seem a little bit better, and it's 1,000 grafts less compared to what DAP family got. So DAP family should be getting much more regrowth, much more coverage, and much more fullness with his result. And I know DAP family also cut his hair very short on his after photo, which may seem like it's a less density and less coverage, but nonetheless, I feel like there is not that hair regrowth that he should have had for 3,000 grafts. And the last disadvantage of this hair transplant obviously would be the high price, considering it was only FUT. It wasn't even FUE, and I think that you could get a result like that in the US for less than $30,000. And also for $30,000, I would expect the scar to be also a little bit more pencil-like than what DAP family has. And now let's come to the second case. This is gonna be a 2,100 euro hair transplant result from Turkey, 2,700 grafts, FUE Sapphire method. And don't really get confused whether it's FUE Sapphire or normal FUE. There is almost no difference, guys, so no matter which one you choose in the future, don't get confused by that sapphire thing, please. It was a one-day procedure, and this was the before situation of Andrei, and this is the after situation. I really like the result. For the price, it looks awesome, okay? And again, if you want to check out Nomad Andrei's results and videos from each month after his operation and some other useful information he shared with his audience, make sure you check out his channel below. Let me share with you some pros and cons that I have for this transformation. Obviously, pros, low price with hotel included in the price. Another advantage will be properly managed donor, which is a big advantage here. Was he lucky? Maybe. Will everybody who will go to this clinic get the same treatment, the same result? We don't know, but likely, because he actually chose the cheapest package here and he got treated pretty well in my opinion. So that's really up for you to decide whether you will be willing to risk this or not. Now, another things that I would consider as obviously advantages, things that I like about his result would be how fully his hairline is regrowing now, and also the temples. I don't see any patches or gaps, like ingrown areas or whatsoever. So that's really good and I really like it. That means that all things went well. The transaction was not super high, because otherwise the hair right now wouldn't look as full and wouldn't look as properly grown out. So this is also a sign of very healthy transaction rate with this procedure. Now let's come to some disadvantages of this cheaper or less expensive hair transplant. Obviously, lower doctor involvement, because if you pay a little money, you cannot expect the doctor to be as involved. In this clinic, where Andrei went to, they do like 3 to 5 patients per day, or the doctor actually didn't do anything besides the consultation, hairline design, and talking with the patient a little bit about maybe the future hair loss, talked about the medications and stuff, but he actually didn't do anything additional, like physically being involved in the incision making phase or any other surgical aspect. So that's the disadvantage here, but he got the consultation with the actual doctor. Another disadvantage would be that the clinic in Turkey, or most of the clinics in Turkey, they do not offer FUT. And follicular unit transplantation, like DAP family had, it is to be considered seriously by guys with Afro hair, guys who simultaneously also are higher Norwood class, like DAP family, and also their donor is not as rich in follicles, it's maybe just average. In such case, you should not go for FUE, because there will never be a scenario where you could get actually a great full coverage with only FUE, with that suboptimal donor and high Norwood class. That's why you should start with FUT, and you should take most of these grafts from your donor via FUT, via the strip method, and then do maybe another FUE or more FUEs. That's why I consider it disadvantage, especially for guys with Afro hair who want to go to Turkey but they don't have good donor and they want to get that full result and high density result despite being already like high Norwood class, like Norwood 5 or 6. It's a shame that FUT is not being offered in such case. I think it should be. Another disadvantage would be obviously that you need to travel abroad, you need to travel to Istanbul, to Turkey, or to other cities like Ankara, and you have also some additional expenses for flights normally, which can also add up onto like a couple, maybe $1,000, $1,500, up to $2,000 sometimes. So that's another disadvantage, but apart from that, I haven't found any more disadvantages. I hope this gave you a nice insight into what's possible with Afro hair if you do a transplant in Turkey versus US. For all of you who are interested in a hair transplant, you don't know what the next best step should be for you to get your hair back, make sure you check out the link in the video description below where you can learn more about how I can help you out personally one-on-one, how I can guide you with this and help you solve all of your hair loss and hair transplant related issues for you. Make sure you check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna be here soon with another video. Take care. Avoid a failed or unnatural hair transplant. Receive best recommendations on clinics, doctors. Avoid wasting your time with treatments that don't work while your hair loss keeps on progressing further, and receive my opinion on your hair situation.